All right, Andy, take it away.
Okay, I'll hit share screen. Okay, a little story here, I hope. Okay, the guys that are familiar with my Nashville Road Facebook page, can you see this okay?
Yeah, it's showing up fine.
Okay. Um, they know that I've been getting into making scenery. So I've got a grinder, got a hand grinder, an electric grinder. Started making clump stuff out of foam. And my buddies here have been teasing me about what I've been making, and I should open up a store and such. So, anyways, this morning I thought I had this picture here that I took just for kicks, and I thought I'd post it to my Facebook page to the guys and tell them I'm going to open up a shop. I was going to name it Nashville Puff Material Stuff. And no sooner did I get it on there than Facebook, they nailed me to the wall. They said, since I'm the administrator, it's double as bad as if it was just somebody posting it. And if I did it again, they're going to freeze my Facebook page and basically kick me out. So, anyways, that's my story for today. And of course, you can't talk to anybody. You can only talk to a robot. They have you fill out a few pages. So, anyways, that's that. I'll go on from here. So the program tonight is the second part of the Nashville Road. The first one was how I designed the railroad, how I came about Nashville and the surrounds, the railroads that I included in it and such. And tonight is how we operate it. So I noticed at least a couple of guys here, Bob Butler and Ken Borg, are regular operators with me, and there might be some others I missed, I didn't see. So tonight, operations on the Nashville Road, and we're going to cover car cards and waybills, trains and scheduling, making the railroad run, paperwork, and crewing the railroad. Car cards and waybills management. And I want to point out that I am not a big fan of anything in particular. I did want switch lists, and the shirt I've got on tonight, if you see it, it's ProTrack. Bob Butler and Bob's still using ProTrack. Because of the size of my railroad, I could just never really get it going right. And I had Jim Moore, the designer of ProTrack. He worked with me a lot. He kept making changes. He had some big changes for us, and he had a heart attack and passed away. And at that time, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stick with ProTrack. So I switched over the car cards. It's worked very well for me. I didn't like car cards at all originally. Didn't want anything to do with them. And Jack Ozanich, if you know him, I started operating with him and his crew. And the car cards he uses is basically the car cards system that Operation Roadshow, who are also friends of mine, John Young and Jeff Fryman. And they helped me set up car cards for this railroad, and it's worked very fine for me. So train crews only use the car cards and the waybills to deliver the car towards its destination or to its destination. The waybills are dealt with between sessions, so nobody messes with the waybills, and nobody updates the car cards during a session except for when you're delivering the car, you're putting it in the box. Now, this is one of the car cards. It's just one I grabbed. Basically, you can see the left side has the car's information, number and such, size and type of car. On the right side is a plastic sleeve, and when it's empty, it shows you the direction the car is going. TN is traffic north or through north, and they'll be going to the staging yard, Bowling Green, to the north. Columbia is to the south, and that would be traffic south or TS. And then Rock Island is traffic west. So B&O also goes traffic north with the Nashville Road. So here's with the waybill. And if you look at the waybill, you can see the type. It's a load, station L11. And what does that mean? How do we use that? Okay, on this sheet here, the left side is the sub-district for the I've got part of this covered with this stuff on top that's kind of messing me up. The Bowling Green sub on the left, and then the Columbia sub on the right. And if you look just below Bowling Green, you can see it says Guthrie is L1. So at the north end of the railroad, the very first station, the first location that we would use for directing cars to their destination is L1. And each station or along the way until you get to the south end of the railroad is L17. And all the other numbers are in between those numbers. So Ribo Yard is L11. That's where that car is going or where it went. And N30 is South Nashville, which is a switching district off of the Ribo Yard. So when it gets to L11, they switch it into the track that's compiling the cars that will heading for be heading for South Nashville to be switched. And this placard, every switching district has a placard like this, and it shows you the Godfrey company is number 30. And here there's 3 spots. We've actually added a third one. That's why it's penciled in there. And as long as there's room, the car's delivered and it's placed. Let me move on down here. It's placed in the set out. But here you can see it's not. It's in the off spot. And the reason it's in the off spot is because the customer spots are all filled. So the car's placed as close to the customer as possible. This card will sit in the off spot until the next switch crew come in. And if there's a spot open, they will deliver the car and then move this card over to the set out. Okay, the waybills, I've got them in a large file here. And if you look down this row in the middle, L1 is Guthrie, L3, L4, and so on until you get to L17. Those are where all the waybills are, that between sessions, we pull the waybills we want to use in the next session, and then we will load the cars with those. I'll cover that in a minute here. So types of waybills. Okay, a basic one, a one-sided waybill. It's when a car's coming in from off the railroad, in other words, staging, coming from somewhere else in the country. It's got a load, and it's going to, this one in particular is going to L1 Guthrie, with West Branch Manufacturing, spot 45. And it gives the information down to the commodity steel plating. So that car will be delivered to Westbrook, and when it's spotted, then the card will be put in the set out, and then between sessions, a person will come along and pull that waybill, and it'll be placed back in the files. And the car, once it's emptied, will be an empty car to be shipped to another customer for a pickup or back towards its home region. So dedicated car service. We've got a few different products, I guess you'd say, that go back and forth, empty one way and loaded the other way. So Hunter Wood products, these cars go from the pulpwood operators to the paper mill loaded. And then when they get to the paper mill, they're emptied. The waybill is just flipped around and it's sent back to the pulpwood operator for another load. And we just flip it back and forth as the car's loaded or unloaded, delivered and such. Here are some cars sitting up at Spring Hill, and they're ready for pickup. And here they've been delivered to Gresham Yard. And at Gresham Yard, they'll be sent on Cedar Hill Yard. And from there, they'll be sent to the paper mill. Okay, we also use that type of card for the quarry, for the stone. Cars come in empty, we put live loads in them. Whoops. And they are then put in the yard and move towards their destination. So depending on what direction they're going, these pulpwood loads are going to the paper mill, and it'll be come out here with a switcher. Paper mill is actually just across the aisle, kind of behind the camera. Okay, inbound waybills are normally assigned to specific railroads. So you see Nashville Road at Bowling Green, NC St. Louis going to Gresham, the B&O. But sometimes they're assigned to a specific train, because we have some trains that are delivered, or I should say that they deliver and pick up from a specific location. Here you can see train 106 works Cedar Hill, 126 works South Adam, and 205 works Cedar Hill. That would be the reverse of the first one. So these will have all the cars in them. This particular one on the right would have all the cars in it that are going to Cedar Hill coming out of staging. And that train would make a set off and pick up anything going southbound towards Gresham Yard, and pull it out of Cedar Hill and continue. But that's why those cars have to be set in those particular trains. Okay, overhead traffic waybill. We want to fill our train out, so we've got 25 to 30 cars on the trains, and we don't always have, we hardly ever have a train loaded with nothing but cars coming to customers on the railroad. There's always overhead. So that's what these are used for. Now you can see this is TS, traffic south, and this is TN, traffic north. So this is the front and this is the back of the card, say, and you just work the card back and forth as it moves from staging to staging. When the car is needed for an actual load, then this waybill is pulled out and the new waybill is put in here. Or if we don't need the car in the train, we just pull the car off the train and put it in a drawer until it's needed next time. Okay, empty for load waybills. You have customers that need an empty car to load up to ship somewhere in the country to a customer. So that's what these are for. And normally we do these at the yards. But here's Gresham Yard, empty for loads, Ribo Yard, and Ribo is a playoff, Rock Island B&O, since it's an interchange yard between those two railroads, and Cedar Hill. So let's go to Gresham Yard here. We've got a bunch of cars on the tracks here, and what we're looking for is an empty car that would be suitable for an empty for load car. And here's one here, SLSF is empty. It's going to be going south, and we decide we're going to use this car. Now, I don't worry too much about getting cars headed back to their home region. If it's an empty car and it's go south, and I can use it because the waybill wants to go south, then I throw it in there. So now we get all the cars that we need to redirect with the new waybills. We put them in at an angle like this. And that way, when the yard master comes up at the beginning of his session, he knows what cars are going to have to be pulled and redirected to a different location, destination. Okay, empty car loaded at customer. So these are cars that are sitting in the yard empty, and we grab them and we send them to a customer. They'll be delivered as an empty, and then between sessions, if we decide the car's been loaded and it's going to be going the next session, then we flip the load, the waybill to load, and then the car is ready to go to its destination the next session. Now, this is a different empty movement waybill. we use this for when we have cars building up in the yard, say Nashville Road, or the B&O or Rock Island in their yard. Say there's a lot of cars building up in their yard, and they don't need all those cars. They need some for customers when they need them, but they've got way too many and it's clogging up their tracks. So they go in here and they grab the waybill that's appropriate for the cars. There's one, looks like HT. So say they got some hoppers there. They pull 3 or 4 of these out and put the waybill in the car. And then that car will be routed off the railroad to a specific destination. The Nashville Road uses Indianapolis as the major yard, and that's where cars go. So as long as they go off the railroad, we can either pull those waybills and use them again as inbound cars with loads, or we can take them off and put them in the drawer till we need them. Okay, just to show you how we work the routing when you get to a yard, because you got all these numbers. So how does it work? So you've got a 25-car train that pulls into Gresham Yard, and we're going to classify them. So if you get an L11, then you look down here, L11 goes to Waybill Yard. So you'd put that on the track that's collecting Waybill Yard traffic. Of L4, look up here to L4, it goes to Gresham Yard. It's actually South Adam, but it's out of Gresham Yard on a train to South Adam. And the same with all the rest of these. So these tell you where you put your car, and then from there you can send it on. Okay, train scheduling on the Nashville Road. So just going through this, freight trains do not run all the way across the railroad. We have 2 sub-districts, and the railroad, the runs are long enough that we actually divide them up. So you're either going to run from south staging to the main yard, or the main yard back to south staging, and the same with the north end. So all freight trains run halfway across the railroad, either between, well, I pointed that out to you already. Okay, for all railroads, northbound trains are even numbered and southbound trains are odd numbered. And that just helps you understand what your train, what direction your train's gonna go. In Nashville Road, trains are numbered in the 100 series for Nashville, from Nashville south. Here again, it's to help you understand where the train's at or where it will be. So it's in the Columbia subdivision, 100 series trains. And the Bowling Green subdivision is 200 series trains. So everything north of Nashville is 200. Trains operating on the layout between 2 locations are named trains, such as Gresham Transfer or South End Local. We don't number them. Okay, passenger trains are numbered 1 to 50. Now, this is before we really get into the passenger train, so I'm not sure. Haven't sat down and worked with anybody to see how we really want to number or name the trains, the passenger trains. But right now, the B&O trains are numbered, this is freight now, from 70 to 99. And this is based on the B&O trains that ran into Louisville. We're actually in the, I believe they're in the 80 area. So, but they're right in that area. And the same with Rock Island. They came into Memphis in the 900 series. I think it was up 980, 990, up in that area. So, and then both the B&O and Rock Island trains terminate at Waybill Yard, where all the cars are reclassified before they're forwarded to the next destination. Okay, L&N and NC St. Louis. These, we have 2 from each of those railroads, and 1 goes to each of the main yards, Gresham Yard and Waybill Yard. 1 train per yard each day, and they work the transfers. So Tennessee Central has 1 local switcher that comes out of a staging track at Guthrie, and it works Guthrie and Adam and interchanges the Nashville Road at South Adam, and that works out pretty good. Guys like that, although it can be a little confusing for them. Okay, this 24-hour schedule of trains, and I'll show you the next sheet. This is just half. So this is the AM, then the other sheet's the PM. It gives you a little more information on your train, on the trains, if you want to get a little more info on it. That sheet's right here in the middle. These, we'll get into this a little bit more when we get down to cruise, but these, the trains that we're going to use for this session are all right here. We can get up to 29. We normally leave one blank. And then this is where they're located. And as crews assign themselves, when you come in, you grab your name tag and you stick it on the board wherever, what trains you want. And this tells you the type of train it is. So here's all the guys with name tags. And all the other trains are on the far left, and they're in chronological order. So we just move them back and forth between here and here. The AM are all in the first column, and the PM are all in the second column. You can see it a little better here. And after it's been used, you can see some of the stuff we've added in. We're kind of loose at really following what we've got up here time-wise, on duty, off duty. Some people do a good job of tracking that. Then people like me down here, no, I just checked it off. So, and that is all the trains we ran on that session. We put a line across there. These will all be cleared off. These will be moved up to the top, and then we'll take the rest off that far left board and fill in until we get a full board again. Okay, the trains that are ready to go are the ones with the cards facing outward. The cards facing inward are trains that have arrived and have not been reworked. So they'll be going on one of the next two op sessions. Trains run about once every month and a half, each of these trains. Okay, here's a few trains just going across the railroads. This is train 206, making a set off and a pickup at Cedar Hill. Lease Santa Fe Power on Nashville Road train. That's the only way I could do it. We don't have any Nashville Road power, so we got this equipment. It's going to be painted one day, but right now it's not. I do a little bit about the painting at the end of this program here. So, and then number 5, well, that's train number 5, and it awaits departure. This is train 125. Most of them are double-headed at south from Nashville to Birmingham, back and forth between those two cities. It's all steam. It's the last bastion of steam on the railroad. And because of the size trains and the climb they have, we double-head it. We have 2 crews, one on every engine. Whoop. And then here's 125, 126 meeting at Spring Hill Pass. So B&O 99, Cedar Hill en route to Waybill Yard. And this is a live load, a 30-car train of coal, all live loads. B&O 78 through Cedar Hill en route to Bowling Green. In Rock Island, Power awaiting their call at Waybill Yard. I really have too much Rock Island Power up here for the amount of trains we have. But I like seeing red, black, and white, so I leave them on rails. Here's 984 with a meet at Spring Hill. And then last is NC St. Louis. This is the transfer train. This one is going to Waybill Yard with the daily transfer. And you'll see this picture again about this light, but this is passing Cassidy. Okay, making the railroad run. This is actually 2 separate sheets sitting side by side. We got a whole stack of these, and for every train that's going to be running on the main, outside the yard limits, we have to give all this information to the dispatcher because he's got to clear those trains. He's got to write orders for them. These are cover sheets for all the trains. Gives you all of the instructions, information you need. And you'd be surprised how many people either don't read or forget what they read. And I have to raise my hand on that one too. So here's train 205, 225, and 255. And this those trains I was talking about made separate. Well, the only one making the stop at certain places. So they had to make sure they made their stop and did their work. 205 set off and pick up at Cedar Hill. 225 set off, pick up at South Adam. That's the interchange with Tennessee Central. And then 255 set off, pick up at Guthrie. And this is the passenger train, and I really only got the passenger trains on here so the guys get used to the timetable and be looking for trains on the timetable. There's another mill job. Downtown switcher. Engine card. Each engine that you have on your train will have its own card. Now here's a pack all ready to go in this train right here. It's train 105, so it's a southbound. It'll be double-headed steam with the length of that train sitting on AD, track 81. Okay, registers. Registers are kind of a pain, but if you know anything about timetable train orders, you know we got to have registers because sometimes they tell you don't proceed until train such and such has arrived. Well, you don't know if it's arrived before you got there unless you look at the register and see that, or else you're going to be sitting for many hours wondering where he's at. A clearance card or a clearance form. Every train, whether it's timetable or an extra on orders, gets one of these. And anytime you're on the main line outside yard limits, you have to have this. And then along with that, you'll actually get your train order. And this train one that gives you extra extra 159 would be the train south. Meets extra 2503 north at Springfield, extra 159 south take siding. So those would be hung at the close to where the train originates. So the crew will be looking for that down in staging or at a station. And here train orders the signal. It's important you check each signal you go by. If they're green, you're all set. If they're red, then you've got to stop. If there's orders there, you pick up your orders, you read them, you contact the dispatcher, tell the dispatcher you've got your orders. He'll flip the light from red to green and you can go on your way. And there's the dispatcher's panel up over his head. You can see they're all green at this time. So he can line up, he can throw green light at any of the locations for either north or south. This timetable that I made up for the guys to get used to. We do have a few freight trains on it and the two passenger trains, 5 and 26. So we have party line phones. We have several phones in the railroad room. They seem to work okay, although a couple of them, we actually have one that quit, so it's out of order. And we've got a couple that are not very loud. Tim Childs, who's working on these things, wants to take a look and see what he can do to strengthen the voice on them. Okay, dispatcher is one of the people that you need to have on a railroad. He's got to know what he's doing. Or like a yard master doesn't know what he's doing, a railroad will fall down quickly. Everybody out on the main, well, dispatcher, same thing. The fast clocks are around the railroad. They're, you can see one right there. I just bought cheap $5 clocks at Walmart, pulled them apart. Ron St. Laurent, good friend, he built the kits for these. Mike Dodd. Mike Dodd has these kits. He still has them available. We've been very lucky with them, And right in the middle here, it's a little yellow light. It comes on at noon. We flip it on for the PM. So here's the fast clock controller that Ron made for us. Okay, I got ahead a little bit on the crewing, talking about dispatcher, but crewing positions, the crew call board, and we talked about that already. The guys grab their names and put them wherever they want them here. The dispatcher and the yard master and such will plug their names in here, and their crews are going to help them plug in here. Pasture station's not in operation yet. We hope to have it in operation before too long. Dispatcher, as I point out, if you don't have one that knows what he's doing, it creates a lot of problems. The yard master, same thing. Gresham yard master and his workstation. And this is Kevin. I pointed out before, but his third deck, Kevin. And Kevin's way over 6 foot. He makes us all look pretty short. He makes this look like it's at about the 3 foot level, but it's 45 inches. And this is the local yard. This is part of Gresham yard. So there's kind of 2 yards working together, interchanging back and forth. Cedar Hill yard. And this is the one, a lot of the guys, especially older guys, like it. It's a sit down yard. It's just at 31 inches. And it's a busy yard. It services 3 or 4 different locals that go out, and it's got its own work. And this, I pointed out, Jim Blackwell passed away a little over a month ago now. Maybe, I'm not sure exactly what it was, how long it was, but he just loved coming to operate, and he was not in good shape, but we'd get him down here. He'd sit there all day and just operate, loving it. Waybill yard master, a few pictures of Waybill yard. It can be pretty busy too. And then the train crew action. So the guys have a good time. I think we have, we have enough trains to keep everybody busy. And here's crew on a double-headed steamer. And this is Columbia up here behind them. So this go all the way around the room at the 3rd deck and then come into here and tie up in Columbia. Okay, just a paint shop report. I started painting them. These are the first locomotives I painted. I'm using armored yellow and then black. And basically it's going to be a version of the Milwaukee Road scheme with yellow instead of orange. And in the scheme of things for the railroad, the story is that the L&N and Milwaukee Road took controlling interest of the Nashville Road. So it still operates as a separate railroad, but you will see their equipment on this railroad, and they are the owners of it. I'm working on these switchers. I'm putting keep alives in them because I'm getting very tired of the yards and the constant problem of keeping the track clean. So we do have a fair amount of dust in the basement. We can't seem to do much about it. So we got 1 Rock Island engine, and then the other 5 will be separate or divided between Gresham Yard and Cedar Hill Yard. And the RS-11 on the left is the first of, you can see the other 2 in the background, of the road units being painted. And I make my own decals on my Elms printer. I made the decals for the Jeep, but a friend, he painted the Jeeps for me, 9 of them. And I'm now painting them myself. And I'm just learning to work with acrylic paints and such. So, and the last shot is I have 4 ABA sets of the Alco PAs. 2 sets are on deck and 2 sets are painted. Trying to come up with a paint scheme, nothing that's too fancy. I kind of like that one on the Denver Rio Grande Western, but that's too many little stripes on it. So if I go something like that, I will make it a wider single stripe. And that's it. Many happy op sessions to you all.
All right. Let me look at the chat. There is a comment from, hold on, Dana saying odd trains come from the north. I'm not, that's the only thing he said. I'm not sure what the.
Yeah, when I picked this out, I wasn't looking at what railroads picked, but I did
Yeah.
see. I know I saw one where they're the same as mine. I thought, oh, I was lucky on that one. So I hadn't heard of this one that Dana's talking about.
Okay.
Is it possible that different railroads did different ways?
Oh, I'm sure. If you've
I,
seen, just like we're talking about EMS earlier, if you've seen one railroad, you've seen one railroad. You know, every
yeah,
railroad's
yeah,
going to do something a little bit different. So,
yeah.
somebody said, Dave says, with your clearances, you don't need registers. The dispatcher can just fill out line 3.
And he might be right. I don't know. This is what we're doing. Is what we did
Yeah.
on Jacko's Anages, what we did on Operations Roadshow. So,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then what you've got to be careful about too is that you got guys that might show up in your basement every other month at the most. They might operate on my railroad, 5 or 6 times in a year. Never the same train. Sometimes might be switching. You might only get on the road, work with a dispatcher a couple of times a year. So that's kind of you've got to take that into consideration. If the railroads do it a certain way and I can incorporate that, I'd rather do it that way. But like
Yeah.
what Dana was talking about.
Oh, well, it looks like Tim is saying L&N rule was trains running away from Louisville were southbound and numbers were odd. So technically, like I said, everybody does something different.
Right. Right.
So there's a question about what is the stand next to the switchers in the paint shop?
And I can.
Do you want to put your slide back up there?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
if you don't mind, I can go back to that real quick.
No, go ahead.
All right, Ivy, quiet.
Go back.
There.
Lost it.
What did I lose?
The share.
Share. Oh, okay. There we go. A stand.
Go to that one there.
Right. This right here. That's for airbrushes.
Okay.
This is sitting on top of my airbrush station. The vented.
Yeah.
Airbrush.
Carl Bloom, is that the stand you're talking about? You can unmute yourself if you need to. Yeah. I think that's what he was referring to.
All right. No, let me get rid of this again.
All right. Let's see. We keep going through the slides or oops, hold on. Let's see. Can you show the track diagrams booklet? Do you have that?
The booklet itself, I'm not sure. Let me
ask this other question. That may be something you have to. Do you have any seniority system beyond the guys putting their names on the board?
No. And the seniority system, I guess if it started from day one, then but I'm feeling comfortable giving someone seniority, can't remembering who was first, who was second, third, and we We don't have a problem that way. You come in, you got a whole bunch of trains up there looking for crews. And the only thing we ask is if everybody signed up for trains and there's holes in the crews for certain trains, I'm going to take the guy right at the bottom and put him up in that hole. Maybe he can finish that train and then still get the train at the bottom that he wanted to begin with. But I've
Okay.
never had to do that.
Okay.
So I understand the seniority. I've been on a railroad. Jack Ozanich was one. I had a fairly good seniority number compared to other guys that were there more often. And I feel a little uncomfortable about that. You know, someone there supporting them, but you know, because I showed up a year earlier one time, my name's first on the list type of thing.
Yeah, I was at one railroad where the owner of the railroad actually had slightly lower seniority than the people attending. I'm like, okay, you're doing something wrong, but
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah. All right. Um, let's see if there's any other questions. Just lots of compliments. How often do you operate?
Oh, we operate, got one coming up this Saturday, and we operated last Monday.
Okay. Is it
So
twice a
about
month, once a month?
yes, middle Monday, last Saturday.
Okay. So a couple times a month then.
Right.
All right.
And the Monday one's 5 hours and the Saturday one's 6 hours.
Okay.
Guys bring their lunches, take a break whenever they want. It's really laid back. We have a good time.
Got it. Well, hold on. My chat is going wonky here. Give me a second. Some seniority is done by attendance record. So where
Yeah,
if you've been to 10 sessions, you're ahead of the person who's been to 8, but
yeah.
yeah. All right. How big is this layout? How big is the footprint
Overall
for it?
size, because it's not like rectangle or square. The house, the foundation is kind of all over the place, I guess you could say. But the Gresham yard is, let's see, I think it's 48 feet from one wall to the other. So Gresham yard is about 6 foot shy of that. And then Ribo yard, the Rock on B&O yard, that goes from wall to wall, and that's 56 feet. And that includes a switching district at one end of it. So, but it's not 48 by 56 because it's, if you look down, it looks like a T, and then there's another section of switching districts.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the main line length is?
Yeah, it's from staging to staging, it's about 1,100 feet, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, that's a good long run. So
yeah, that's why we split it. I think the guys don't mind it being split like that.
Yep. All right. Any more questions? You can unmute yourself and ask if you'd like, if you don't want to type.
Well, this is Dana. I can clarify my first comment, so it'll make a little bit more sense to those who want to know. Andy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Dana.
Okay, so I was essentially saying the same thing you were, except I was inverting it. I was going the other way. And it's a memory trick that I use just to remember, and it works on almost all North American railroads. So you were saying northbounds were what?
Northbound were even.
Okay, so that means if you're coming south, it's odd, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that thing's meant north, things coming from the north are odd. And I use it also for east-west roads because my wife is from Boston.
Okay.
And so I say that trains from the east are odd, or all things from the east are odd. And that's just one way of just remembering one way or another. And so the odd is meant in a different context.
Right.
anyhow, but it almost always works. At least it works for the LNN, and it also works for the Union Pacific, Southern Pacific, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was all I was doing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your thoughts.
All righty. Bradley, Scott, yes, oh, nice dog. Good doggo. Yes, the recording will be up on YouTube. Go to the YouTube. I'll give you the link here. All of our recordings are posted to the YouTube channel. Go ahead, Dave.
One question I had was on the in the yard when you're talking about billing, you showed a bunch of cars that were I guess you would change the billing that were at an angle in the card boxes.
Yeah.
Was that a staging yard or is that a class yard?
No, that's class yard, Gresham yard. What we found, we needed to find cars empty for load. And when we messed with a car, you know, if you take the car card and you change the waybill in the car, or you put the waybill in the card, now you've made a change. That car's got to go somewhere else. And if it's just sitting in there with all the others and you can't tell it from the others, you might miss that. The yard master might just leave it on a train thinking it's still going in the direction it was originally scheduled for or routed for. So we put those in at an angle. So the first thing you walk up to it, oh, there's a card sitting up there. I wonder what's going on with that. So you look at it, you see there's a waybill, and you can see where it's going.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the reason I just asked was at one point in the distant past, I worked in car control and actually did rebilling of cars and assigning them to industries. And one of the things that we were absolutely never supposed to do was to change the billing of a car that was in a class track. Well, we could do it. It's just the phone calls from the train master and yard master were hellacious when they had to re-switch the track. But I understand on a model, you don't have that much, you don't have that kind of a choice.
No, well, we also don't have as many cars to pick from. I don't have a lot of
exactly
cars sitting there, so we grab what cars we can. So, it's interesting to know how the railroad did it. But sometimes it's just too hard to incorporate, you know, for a model railroad.
Yeah. All righty. Well, Andy, thanks again. Thanks for presenting the second part. We appreciate that. I'm going to stop the recording.